metaverse could be, right? I would think that it really, now my parents even could understand what it is, which is interesting. But in your opinion, Rice, how far off from what you saw or what you experienced with Ready Player One is the true metaverse gonna look like? And you can take about 30 seconds to answer.
I would say that we're just a few years away from actually achieving that, if not sooner. You see all this advancement going towards the metaverses. You see Facebook with the name change to Meta. You're seeing all this growth in the space. I definitely see people putting a lot of work towards it and a lot of development towards it. So I think in the next couple of years.
Wonderful. Let's give yourself 2 points. I will also give points. If you guys don't clap or say give him some points, I'm gonna have to do it. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Steve, what you got for us?
You gotta turn it on.
You are.
Hello. All right. So in terms of the metaverse, I co-founded a company called Grow Your Base. We're the 8th largest landowner in Sandbox. And it has been the wildest ride, seeing the 1x1s go from $40 to now $15,000 in the last year and a half. But in terms of what I've seen personally and where we're at, it's still very, very early with Sandbox Alpha coming out on Monday. Seeing that was only like a small, teeny tiny little glimpse. Whereas Ready Player One, like my guy here in the front row, wearing almost a VR headset. What is that, by the way?
He's in the metaverse already.
He's literally in the metaverse. Mirror vision. Wow. Okay, right on. Well, in terms of Ready Player One, where you're actually extracting more value in the metaverse than you do in your real life, I think that we're maybe 10 years away from that. It could be 5, but based on the Philippines pulling value from Axie Infinity so quickly, people making full-time entire incomes, I think for the rest of the world, that's gonna take at least 10 years.
It is going to, yeah. Yes, thank you. Well, I don't have to say it every time. Let's give him some points. How many points do you give yourself?
3. What do we think, 10? Because I said 10 years 3 times?
3.
What do we think?
3 points. All right, Ben. What do you consider your vision of the metaverse compared to what you saw in Ready Player One?
I don't know, but if I want to walk around looking at myself, do I need to get one of those mirror visions?
Yes.
I mean, I can't imagine anything better. You know, just walking around looking at myself all day. That's better than the metaverse. That's like the me-verse. The me-verse. So, you know what's interesting about Ready Player One is when that movie came out, it seemed so futuristic. And nobody could imagine that was a real thing. No one was actually talking about metaverse. But I feel like in crypto, what year did that movie come out? Like 2016?
Ish.
2018. I feel like in 2018, within like a year of that movie coming out, you started to hear whispers about a real metaverse, and you started to hear whispers how crypto could be involved in it. And, those were conversations we were having very early on in this. And you know what's even more interesting is I made this video about how, going it all in on the metaverse, like this is the next move. This is what we're doing as a channel. And then I had no idea that same week Facebook was going to rebrand. And if Facebook rebranding to Meta does not,
because of you.
Well, I didn't want to say it, guys, but we are living in the me-verse. So, no, I had no idea they were going to do that. Now, we did know that they were doing some work with the metaverse because we had seen I think it was a $50 million investment, which isn't that much money for a company like Facebook. We also saw that they were, we know that they bought Oculus, which they're now going to rebrand to MetaQuest. And so we knew a lot of stuff like that, but to really look at now where they're moving to and that
well, that sounds fun.
What happened? It's the Facebook
The
police.
werewolves.
Wow, it's a werewolf. Yeah.
Or a very slowly
Inu.
deflating balloon.
Was
Wolf
that Shiba
Inu.
Inu? So the thing is, though, is in all reality, like, this is the future. It's not that far away. Facebook is moving us towards that, but thankfully, thanks to crypto and decentralization, we have an alternative. I don't think Facebook is really prepared for how much people hate them. I think they're gonna have a really hard time because older people, like people my age, a little bit, millennials and pretty much millennials and up, they hate Facebook with everything. It's the generation older than us, I guess the Generation X, that they're all like, they love it because they share pics of their grandkids. But people my age hate it. And kids now today, they also hate it because they think it's something cool for their parents. So they're not prepared for the pushback that they're gonna have on their metaverse. And people are so tired of them stealing everybody's data and using us as products. And so the metaverse in a decentralized fashion is gonna give us the opportunity to be able to take, stake a new claim out there in the digital landscape that we lost thanks to Facebook.
Great answer. It's going to give you -5 points, though, because here's the deal. I said take about 30 seconds, and if you watch the show on YouTube, you know that we've got this shut up button, which you get a 10-second countdown, and I wish I could have hit that about 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, sorry, Justin. Sorry, I changed it.
Yeah, okay.
84.
Great, I'm just kidding. Great answer, though. Seth, what about you?
So I think. So with,
Is that on?
yeah, I don't know if it's on. Are we okay? Levels are up. So with the metaverse, I think that there is obviously a huge pushback that's incoming. Facebook just has they haven't read the room recently, right? Even before they announced this whole switch to Meta, there was a mass exodus from Facebook to other social media platforms. In the publishing space, we've been talking about the holy grail of decentralized video hosting that somehow also gives you good organic discovery for years, maybe for longer than this whole push towards the metaverse, and maybe since before Ready Player One came out. I think that if we do move to something that's like the metaverse from Ready Player One, it's going to have to slowly build into things into this space where we have our own avatar, where we are removed from our own identity. We have to preserve our autonomy and our data privacy, and the only way we're going to do that initially is by choosing, kind of these avatars that don't directly represent us, and that goes against everything that companies like Facebook stand for, where they want you doxxed. They want to own every bit of your personally identifying information. So I don't know when it's going to happen, but I think that we actually have to have a cultural change before it can happen safely.
I love that. Let's give yourself 4 points on that. Now, I love what you said about the cultural change, because we are going to get into that a little bit more when we get into more of the deep dive questions. So great job. 4 points for you, Seth. Blood. Let's hear it.
What?
Yeah.
Woo!
Let's go, Blood.
What is Ready Player One? I've never heard of this movie. Is it like Juice or Menace to Society?
Yeah.
What
yeah.
about Paid in Full?
White Man Can't Jump.
Oh, okay. No, I really have not seen that movie, but I will say that many people forget about a game called Second Life, and I think they really were ahead of their time. And you've seen in the past many people make money, like they're living off of doing things in Second Life, and so I think we're actually probably closer to that being a very popular thing. I would say in the next 2 to 3 years, to be honest with you, with Meta, Facebook, they have, 2 billion people that they can at least try to vertically integrate. I think we are around the corner, to be honest with you.
I love it. 3 points for you. Right? 3 points? 3 points? I like it. Okay, well, so that will conclude the lightning round, and I hope you guys are warmed up, ready to go, ready to chat some metaverse.
Oh, that was the lightning round.
Yeah, see.
Oh, I missed that part.
See, when you go long-winded, you kind of miss the point of the lightning round. But anyway, all right, Seth, I'm going to come to you on this first question. Now, in your opinion, and just talking about Meta, what are the biggest privacy concerns with a company like Facebook or Meta with the rebrand actually leading the charge into this metaverse with what would seem to be a war chest of money, technology resources, and a lot of stolen data?
Yeah, that last bit is the most important thing. Most people don't even realize that even if you're not on Facebook, Facebook basically has a dossier on you. They know you, even if you don't think that you've given them anything. So all this correlated data set that exists because your aunt is really, really big into Facebook and scrapbooking, both. And she thinks that Facebook is a scrapbooking platform. So unbeknownst to you, every one of your childhood photos, yes, including the one we're in the bathtub, they're all on Facebook. And so something that they don't talk about very openly, some of the open source technologies that they stole years ago, like 10 years ago, to be able to do facial detection and then facial recognition, they've been running those algorithms for the better part of 10 years. This stuff isn't new. They already have a graph on your personally identifying information. So all the other stuff is actually secondary because they monetized that. And when they finally realized what they had, and started running ads and doing streaming. By the time we thought that there was some kind of an advertising platform on Facebook, they had all that stuff captured, locked in. So they own us. Even those of us who think we're abstaining, they own us. So with personal data privacy, one of the only things we can do is begin to what's called poison the well. Give them junk data. That's pretty much one of our only lines of defense as users of these platforms. And then moving forward, we further and further abstract our identity from all these platforms, and we build an avatar that's of our choosing, not just the previous data set that they've been controlling and manipulating for the better part of a decade.
Wow. Woo. I feel great. I feel like I just learned something. Thank you. Give yourself a few points. Audience, what do you think? 5 points. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, I did want to say, like, throughout... So throughout, like, this question kind of period that we're going through right now, I would encourage the rest of you guys to chime in. Like, so if you have something kind of in a rebuttal or something to say about what Seth said,
I'd love to add.
please pop in.
I'd love to add on to that. I think that the hate for Zuck and Meta is actually the best advertising that could ever happen to the decentralized
Amen.
concepts. I think it's just similar to Libra when that was a whole thing, that whenever that was that 2 or 3 years ago? That concept was that they were going to come out with a digital wallet, and then everybody was going to then rush to Bitcoin and Ethereum because they were like, okay, Zuck, you're annoying. I'm going to go see how I can do this elsewhere. So I think that the hate train towards Facebook is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I don't think that it's a bad thing for everybody in this room. I think it's a great thing.
But you know, this technology, we have to really continue to educate people because it can be used against the uninformed, right? So we just have to make sure people understand Meta, Facebook Meta is not metaverse and what we're building on and you know, community building. So I think it's just important that we continually show people the difference. They're not the same.
Perfect. Something like playing off of what you just said, and then Steve, kind of what you just said. This question is going to come to you. Now, you are also a new father yourself within the last year.
Yeah.
What are some security measures that you think are going to be needed in order to address places like the metaverse, where obviously a lot of the platforms that are building, especially in the crypto space, are decentralized, and we know what is going on a decentralized internet. A lot of bad things. So what kind of protocols need to be in place in order to protect children or those that are more vulnerable?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one of the things that I did do on the father note, and I think that's your little...
Justin,
that's mine.
there's a baby making noise in the audience.
Excuse me, wife, if you could...
Put that baby in the
I think she was
metaverse.
giving me points, actually. I think
That's
that's what she was
Justin's
saying.
baby, everybody.
Give the baby a hand.
She's so cute.
5 points for the baby.
5 points. 5. I would give the baby 10 points.
10 points
10
for the
points.
baby. Oh, yeah,
10
sorry about
points
that.
for
Go
the
ahead.
So one of the things that I did was the month that my son was born, I set up an email account for him, set up a Bitcoin and Ethereum wallet for him, sent him like $20 each, and each 6 months I send him an email to that email, something, you know, sweet and whatnot. And the idea is that he has a ledger and that everything's backed up to his ledger. And for birthdays, holidays, stuff like that, I just send stuff to his ledger. And when he's old enough, I'm going to give him the keys to the ledger, pretty much. That's
Dang,
how,
I'm gonna
that's
steal
how
that
I'm
idea.
playing it.
That's really cool.
That's cool.
My daughter is a Bitcoiner. I haven't set anything up. Well, I guess we did set up an email address. I love that idea, and I think that we'll probably put that into play for our life.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Give
Beautiful.
yourself some points.
All right. Points.
Blood. Now, some of the things we're talking about with the metaverse, and we're going to see society change. A lot of things are going to change, whether it's business. I mean, think about even like restaurants, right? People, if you get sucked into the metaverse, you're not going to go to a restaurant anymore. All right, and that's just the example, but what are some of the biggest changes that we'll see in society as a whole as we get to a more mainstream metaverse?
Commerce, I think, you know, the digital age of, you know, creating things in that world is going to take over. I can see really, like in 20 years, the metaverse having its own GDP tracking system or number, right? Because I think it's going to be that big. With more people, you know, jobs being eliminated from AI and you know, even blockchain, but tech period, it's going to continue to eliminate jobs. that aren't going to be replaced. So I think people are going to move to the metaverse to make a living. So
I think you're absolutely right. And it's really going to be interesting to see which industries we lose. Because there will be some downfall. I mean, it's just the way that it goes. It's, the casualty of war.
Almost anything that does not involve human interaction.
right.
Counselors, pastors, psychologists, those are very safe jobs.
Rice talked about meta.
Yeah, actually, there was an interview that Mark Zuckerberg did with Gary Vee a couple weeks ago, and he talks about churches using the metaverse to do like meetings. So the potential idea that we could be moving our workplaces, I mean, if you look what happened in 2020 with COVID and people sitting at home and working from home in remote locations, doing the Zoom meetings, those things will eventually be replaced with things like the metaverse as well. And when I said earlier, like 2 to 3 years, me seeing the metaverse like a Ready Player One start to develop, I'm saying that from a centralized perspective. That does not include anything to do with blockchain technology or cryptocurrencies. I mean, we're gonna have battles of metaverses that are going to be centralized databases versus decentralized databases, if you want to call them that. But that's just to explain a little bit why I was saying 2 to 3 years. Because from a centralized perspective, I mean, we could see just with cryptocurrency, you have a centralized blockchain like Solana. Yeah, you can have fast throughput, but then you have to turn off your blockchain when you have issues. So then you have that centralization problem. And those are the things that we need to get away from when it comes to this planet. We need to decentralize as many things as we can possibly decentralize and put the power back into the hands of we, the people.
There we go. There we go. I think we forgot to give a few points away. So, Blood, give yourself 5 points.
So wait, we're going to have baby Jesus in the metaverse?
Big baby Jesus. Big baby Jesus.
That's it.
Dear 6
Wu-Tang.
pound, 7 ounce baby Jesus.
But I worry a bit about that because imagine that this is your resource for an AA meeting. Do you really think that Facebook and Meta can be entrusted with the sordid details of your or my addiction? Right, and say like, oh, so that's your kink, huh? It's okay. Your secret's safe with us.
Well, I tell you what, Digital Budweiser is going to sponsor your AA meeting. They're going to put beer.eth and FTs all over the wall. So they're trying to call you to come back. They
I'm
don't
a
want you to be a quitter.
digi-alcoholic.
There was a great conversation with Naval Ravikant about the future and how he said that with things like the metaverse and blockchain, it's going to allow people to actually pursue their creativity, and we're just going to automate a lot of the other jobs and everything out, which is a bleak way of looking at some of the infrastructure jobs and stuff like that. But if every person gets to do creative things every day that you love and you're passionate about, is that so bad if everybody can do something creative?
Well, think about this though. Here's what's so interesting, is that that's the tension that we're seeing right now. Why do you think Arby's can't get enough workers to stay open past 6 o'clock on a Sunday?
Because they've got the meat.
Well, that's right, because they have the meats. But
People be there if they had the
they have the meats, Blood.
Where's the beef?
They have the meats. Arby's does not stand for roast beef, by the way. That's a myth. But listen, here's true story. But here's the thing. We're seeing this tension right now exist between what people feel like they have to do to survive and what people feel like they want to do. And nobody really today wants to go and work at McDonald's. Nobody wants to go work a corporate job that they really hate. And we're living in this weird tension of this overlap between the way things were done and the way things were going to be done, because we don't actually have the technology right now today to do away with all the other jobs that people hate. But in the future, we will. And I personally think we're much further away from a lot of this than people on the stage have said. Because I said probably a year and a half or 2 years ago that I project it'll be 25 to 50 years before the majority of our world economy is happening in gaming and in the metaverse. And I still think that's going to be how it's going to happen. The long and the short of it is you have to let older, now this is going to sound terrible. This is going to sound terrible. People are going to hate me over this. The generations that do not want to adapt to this kind of technology en masse. Like, I know, obviously, if anybody in here is 60 years old or up, like, you're in the know. Like, you are a cutting edge person. The majority of your peers are not. Okay, so the older generation will continue to push back against this stuff until time goes by, and in 25 to 50 years, all people pretty much know the digital life and they value the digital life. So I think it's going to be a long time before this actually happens. It's not going to be an easy transition. I think when you go back to, it's just like almost anything else in life. Like, the more of an expert you become, the longer you're in something, like kind of almost the further away things feel. I know in 2017 and 2018, like we all felt like adoption was right around the corner, and it's taken a lot longer than we would have thought, but it's still happening, and it's still happening pretty fast. But I think this whole metaverse thing and this idea that we're all going to be living in it and making money in it, we're still at the very, very beginning, early stages of this. If you look at crypto right now, crypto is not the vast percentage of our world economy. Raoul Pal's talking about $200 trillion into crypto in the crypto markets in 10 to 20 years. Well, that's more money almost than exists in the world as it is already. So when you look at that and you think about the metaverse, I just think it's a little bit further off than people think. And I think we're going to have to see a lot of change before we get there. But it is weird seeing this tension where people want to be in the metaverse now. The younger generation who are digitally inclined, they want to be in the metaverse now. They want to be doing creative stuff now. The number one job, you guys know what the number one job kids want is?
I know.
Number one is YouTuber, number two is influencer. Well, you know what I'm saying. I'm just saying. Well, and gamer is up there as well. But it's so interesting. Like I grew up wanting to be a professional athlete. Like that's what I wanted to be. That was what every kid that I knew wanted to be. And then, spoiler alert, I didn't make it. I do play some mean pickleball, but like it's number 8 today, professional athlete. And it's just funny how I'm doing the number one job. I still wish I was number 8 though.
Yeah. So on that note, though, like the number one job description though of adults right now that is non-skilled labor is driver. Bro, my Uber driver asked me about crypto. He wanted to learn. There's a knowledge gap, even especially in some of these places where there's a skill gap. And I mean, it really hit home. Yo soy cubano americano. For those in the audience who know, que hola, Mercedes. Right here in the audience. It hit really close to home to have somebody say like, yeah, I'm in the struggle. I'm trying to make something happen. But then he shows up with this crypto.com wallet. He has no idea of how to hold his own sovereign keys. And it broke my heart that I couldn't spend more time with him because he had to take his next Uber drive, right? Like there's not time, there's not money, there's heart, there's will, but there's also a knowledge and an onboarding gap that we got to get past. And these are the folks that are unfortunate. They're gonna fall through those cracks, right? When we try to make that transition to a metaverse where there's something meaningful for these folks to do after Tesla replaces all of them.
Well, okay.
Hey,
Screw Elon
Ben,
Musk.
You had mentioned like younger people would be more prone to want to go into the metaverse because they want to be creative. Do you think about the perspective of the state of the world today and how it's been like the past 10 years and how shitty of an existence it is and how some people don't want to actually live the lives they live and it would just be much better to live in some digital VR world? I mean, there's a lot of people that are in that position where they just don't like their life. A lot of people have to work this 9-to-5 job. They're working a third or a quarter of their year to go towards taxes, and they're just doing this repeat cycle. So
but the vast majority of those people don't know they're in the cycle.
Right.
And I think that's the big problem. The people that do know they're in the cycle, they're the ones that are in this room. They're the people that are seeking after something different. Those are the people that are doing the side hustles because they see that they're going to be stuck doing the status quo forever. The vast majority of those people don't know that they're trapped in it. And you know what? Here's a real truth of it is. The truth is we need those people. We need those people, some of those people that don't know that they're trapped in it, because I still want Arby's to be open at 6 o'clock when I go on a Sunday. The one time I went in the last year, I did want it to be open and it wasn't open. I do need somebody to make my meats.
The world needs garbage men.
boycott Arby's.
Yeah. The world needs garbage men. And I think that, look, you have people that are innovators, you have people that are curious, you have people that are leaders, but have you ever tried to turn someone who's not a leader into a leader? It doesn't work. They're not built that way. So, and this is why, this is kind of a larger conversation. It's really off topic, but that's why almost any person you talk to in this room, you will get along great with them. And you'll be like, wow, you speak my language, you understand what I'm doing. How many of us, our very best friends are in crypto? It's because people in crypto have a certain mindset. We are the curious innovators out there, and everybody's not like us. If you ever try to talk to somebody about crypto that just doesn't get it and you can't put it through their skull, it's because they don't want to get it. They're not built to get it. So, consider yourself very lucky to be kind of in this select group of people that are, leading the change in technology in the world, and that are, reaping the financial benefits of it, because it's not for everybody. It's kind of like, I don't want to go speaking the gospel in here, but it's kind of like
Preach, Reverend, preach.
Yeah. Like in the Bible, there's a part where Jesus sends the disciples out, and he says, "Go talk to them. If they don't listen, wipe your feet. Well, you wipe the dust off your feet and move on." And that's kind of how it is, I think, in crypto. Like, a lot of us, we spend too much time trying to talk to people that don't care and don't want to listen. Find the people that want to listen.
Yes, thank you. That's a great. I love that. Hey, if you were applauding in this office for this, make sure that you clap for yourself for, like Ben said, for being here. If you're watching on YouTube, give yourself a round of applause. Give yourself a +1 in the chat for being in the space early, because you are here early. All right, something that I heard pretty much every one of you guys say, and I'm going off kind of my question list because this is something I heard a lot about. And you're like, oh, it's the young people getting ready, and oh, they're not really ready to get into the metaverse. Okay, well, during the pandemic, we saw the shift to students and teachers e-learning. We saw the shift to people in the corporate world. Zoom. I mean, you did 1,000 times more Zoom calls than you ever did in your life, right? Yes. So with that being said, and this question, and I'd like this to be a discussion for everybody, because this is something I think is important. Being a new father myself, something that it just popped into my head. Okay, so now you've got the metaverse. If you are in a rural place in the middle of nowhere, if you are in a low-income area and you don't have the same opportunity that someone does in a much better school district, does the metaverse now put us all on the same playing field to where you've got the same opportunity? There's no excuse to not be the best that you can be, right? How does...
I don't think so. I don't think so.
We also have YouTube today. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you could learn a lot of things. Like, people could replace their education with something like YouTube. But I definitely think that the metaverse is going to create a lot more opportunity. So that way you don't have to necessarily attend a school that's local to you. You could attend a school that maybe would be in another country. Just the curriculum is something that the parents want. So
But you can do that
the
now,
options,
though.
I think, are going to give a lot more options for people to be able to expand out. But I think we already have resources now that helps us to self-educate. That I think that if we don't take advantage of those,
But that's a
But you're not
different kind
going to.
of...
But you're not going to send your 5-year-old to a YouTube school. They
Yeah,
have to go to a
it's a
real
different
school.
kind of
Right,
self-education, though. Like this, that's kind of like practical self-education, and self-learning. Whereas when you look at, like, I mean, I have kids. My kids.
You can learn science stuff. You can learn real education.
Well, you also have to think
valuable
about you
information.
also have to think about learning styles too. Like, there are kids that are suffering today because Zoom does not fit their learning style, and that is really big. And you also think about, it's not just, and I don't know, like this is me as a parent. Our kids, we had been homeschooled, or my kids have been homeschooled since kindergarten. We had a bad experience in kindergarten with my oldest son, and basically, like, he was ahead of a lot of the other kids. And we went to the teacher and we said, what can we do? Because he's saying he was crying because he was so bored. And he doesn't misbehave like I did when I was a kid. So he would just sit there and be kind of dying while everybody else is, trying to learn, and he knew it all already. And the teacher said, "Oh, don't worry, eventually he'll catch up. Like, eventually everybody else will catch up to him." And I was like, well, that's not really how you feed intellect, is to sit there and wait, dumb kids down so eventually other kids can catch up to him. Like, that's not an effective strategy, especially like some of these places are talking about getting rid of their gifted programs and stuff like that. It's bad stuff. But when we started homeschooling our kids, like, obviously we realized, like, the other huge fundamental aspect of education is this school experience itself, and becoming, integrated socially. And we're lucky, our kids are not socially awkward. They never have been. But, a lot of homeschool kids are, because they don't get that social integration. And so you have to think about it more than just the education. But maybe we're moving to a place, and this is like really weird and scary, like maybe we're moving to a place where being, integrated sociologically doesn't really matter as long as you're integrated digitally.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
Yeah. And even Zuck, despite his hate, he said something in his Meta launch or announcement where he said we started with pictures and we moved into text and video sharing, and now you're actually going to feel presence of another human. And that could be the transition that what you're talking about.
Don't we already have that, Santa?
Of
Getting presents from another human.
presence,
Is Santa a human?
as in my presence
Santa's
next
not
to
real.
J-Chain right now.
Yeah, I got
My kid's my bad. My bad. I already said my
Your
kid
son-
cries.
your daughter-
God, he's gonna be mad at me.
But I feel like that could be maybe in a weird future, we're in the midst of a shift towards that presence being a social interaction instead of it being IRL like right now, and that being more valuable than IRL, which is just very uncomfortable to think about. And maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but nobody knows.
Yeah, so so the way you put it, I agree with you as far as the some kids learn differently, right? So the meta will help with those kids. But as far
Thank
as
you, bud.
access to information, I think we already have the internet that's able to get that kid in Cambodia or wherever the information they need. So in that case, I don't think the metaverse will change or improve that, but it will improve the experience of the whole educational world. So.
Very exciting to see where it's all going to go. And, obviously, we got different opinions of how long it's going to take us to get there and when we'll get there and how it'll all look. But I know we're all excited to be building in space, especially you, because you do a lot in it.
That's right.
We've got about 6 minutes left. That runs me out of questions. I figured you guys would talk a little bit more on that last one.
We can
And
keep
it was
going.
really my question was about education, but I guess maybe we can expand into the whole business and corporate world and how that changes.
I'd love to talk about work in terms of digital jobs and the impact that metaverse is going to have on that.
Let's go.
I think that we are underestimating the 2 billion gamers out there in terms of them not even understanding that they can own a piece of the game that they're actually playing and generating a full-time income. And that hasn't really struck yet. Like, people are still intimidated. There's no real education going on yet. And once that does hit and you have these literally billions with a B amount of gamers coming into the metaverse, digital jobs are going to completely change. When you have people that are building, that used to build in Minecraft and Roblox, they're building now as full-time architects for Nike in these new metaverses because no one else has the skill set to do it. You have this shift of digital jobs to the younger generation that's digital native. And I've talked to literally like 14-year-olds that are more skilled than some of the like best architects I've ever seen in the metaverse. And they're building for brands that I can't even mention, but they're huge companies coming in right now. So digital jobs are changing hands from the analog into the digital as we're on stage.
Now, that's a great point. That's another question that I know, especially with New Money Gang, the channel that I'm associated with my buddy Brian, somewhere in the room. One of our main focuses is to really explore how, because our mission statement of our channel is to turn your passion into profit. And obviously, if this is the life that we're living and the things that we're in, the metaverse and making money within the metaverse is going to be very important to a lot of people. How do you do it? We know right now that you can buy land, you can sit on it, you can sell it, you can rent it out, you can advertise. There are just a handful of ways that you can make money. That's another way you can get involved with a company. What are some other ways that you guys see people actually being able to make, whether it's just a living or become wealthy within the space?
So I think there are going to be some things that we can't foresee right now, sort of like known unknowns at this point. So a bit like what Steve was saying before about how he's seeing 14-year-old kids, and I'd love to know at some other point like what they look like. Are these neurotypicals or are these neurodivergent kids? Are these kids with mosaic learning disorders like autism and ADHD? Because that's my world. If my kids were pulled out of school right now and we went to all these like faceless, very, very sterilized models only, they would suffer. But then they'd recover. And then they'd outperform most adults because they'd get hyper-focused on building with tools that they understand better than anybody else in the world. And then they function like a machine that they're integrated into. So I think that we're gonna see sort of like a bit of a it's an unknowable Frankenstein's monster, right? When we run the current of like whatever that thing is through all these other parts that we've collected, and then we remove it from the other systems that we think we know. So yeah, I think it's going to be really difficult for us to know what new business models come out of the mind of a 12-year-old kid who's completely neurodivergent on not just the other side of the tracks, but the other side of the world.
Yeah, yeah. And I participated in a shoe drop, a sneaker drop in the metaverse that was for wearables that could go on my avatar. They were camo sneakers. They were amazing. But the guy sold out.
Could you even see them?
Oh, yeah, I could see him. He sold out in 5 minutes, and it was the equivalent of a year's salary that he made in 5 minutes. I mean, he took a long time to build those, but ultimately, this creative person made an entire year's salary on a drop in
10 minutes.
says 2 minutes.
10 minutes.
Oh, we have more.
We have more.
Yeah, we have more. Justin
They're giving
said
us
he
more
already
time.
ran out of stuff to say. So I want to like, were you done, Steve?
Yeah, buy land in the sandbox.
Yeah, buy land in Sandbox. So we actually, you guys who watch my channel, like, you know, like I'm not an actual gamer. I like to play Mortal Kombat. Like, yeah. No, I'm a typical Sub-Zero guy. I will kill you with Sub-Zero.
Finish him.
I know it's cheap, but I will, you know, pull your spine out of your head. So, you know, the thing is that I saw very early on where this was going, just kind of like, you know, I wasn't into mining, but I saw where crypto was going early on. This metaverse is going to take over. It's going to be absolutely huge. You know, we all know that. And so we started getting land in metaverses years ago. We've actually... That's a good idea. We've actually, you know, we have a lot of land in Sandbox. Some we bought. We bought all of it. We paid for all of it, but some of it I think we maybe got like a special deal on. They made sure we got it 12 by 12. The other plots we have there, we paid for just like regular people and got it on the auctions, stuff like that. But we saw this very early on when nobody cared about Sandbox. It launched on Binance, and you know, we remember, or I remember, you know, when we started talking about it before there was even a token. And if you watch the channel for a long time, you know that. Because we see where all of this is going with Metaverse, but it's more about just buying tokens. And I think about this thing called what Seth was talking about, like the Johari window. Do you guys know what that is? It's like you got 4 quadrants, and one quadrant is known knowns. It's things that you know that you know. Then you have known unknowns. Then you have unknown knowns, and then you have unknown unknowns. You know, so it really helps you capture like what you know about any subject, what you don't know about it, and then there are things that you won't be able to figure out until you find them experientially. And so I talk all the time about how much opportunity there is in metaverse, but what are those opportunities? Well, very easily, buying tokens, obviously, buying and reselling land, that's very obvious. Beyond that is what we call a blue ocean opportunity. It means that there's so much opportunity out there for things that are going to be created in the metaverse for you guys to make money with, that the most important, because like a lot of people, they come up to me and they say, well, what are you talking about? Like, what is the actual thing that we can do right now to make money in the metaverse? I don't know. You don't know either. Just like you don't know, I don't know. But I know that it will be. And so that means you're right on the forefront, just asking those questions and being on the lookout for things like that. Like, let's look at decentralized exchanges, for instance, okay? How much money have some of these companies like Uniswap Labs, like how much have they made with decentralized exchanges? They crush it. Any company that does a decentralized exchange that takes off, they get a very, very small, tiny fee, but it adds up and they make so much money. Guess what? In 2017, nobody had heard of a decentralized exchange. Nobody knew what one was. Exchanges in crypto were brand new. Coinbase had been around since 2014, but it, you know, Binance is the one that really came in and changed the game. It launched in 2017. So nobody could really foresee like what an opportunity creating a decentralized exchange would be. Well, you know, the first people that came up with that idea, they failed at it miserably. It would have been Ether Delta. Yeah, Ether Delta.
Oh, yeah.
And Fork Delta. And let me tell you, it took me like 4 to 6, how many hours did it take us, Justin, to do a transaction for, what did we buy? What was it? Was it SIG? Internet node token? No, we never got out. So it basically took us like 4 to 6 hours to figure out how to do one transaction, at least, and that may be being generous. They failed miserably. So the point is there can be really great ideas that come out on how to make money in the metaverse, and other people may try it and they may fail, But look at what those early ideas are and think about those and think about how you can capitalize on some of those. You don't have to be a developer. You don't have to be, someone that has a lot of technical knowledge. All you got to do is be able to figure out how to connect people. We hired 4 professional Minecraft builders to build our land in Sandbox. You know where we found them out? We found them in Discord, just in a Discord group. We started putting feelers out. They're kids. Just like he was talking about, they're kids. They built a whole city for us in Sandbox. They have a BitBoy statue. I am pretty proud of it. I don't know if I'll ever get one in real life, but in the metaverse, it's there, digital city. So we're really excited about it. And think about that, like building, like that's a good opportunity. But there are gonna be so many ways for you to make money in the metaverse. And just think about this. Almost anything that you can do in real life, you're going to be able to do in the metaverse.
Absolutely. Very well said. I love that. So I think at this point, because we probably got a couple minutes left, does anybody in the crowd have a question for anybody up here? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to point out a lot of the things you were talking about, particularly with kids. Like, I just got married, and my wife has a 10 and a 14-year-old. And it's funny because even with like my PFPs, like if I'm getting any type of thing, I'm like, hey, what looks cool to you? And they're like, that one's stupid. Get this one. So I'm watching them play games, and as frustrating and infuriating as that is, especially watching them be on Zoom last year at school, but they're really playing games the whole time on Zoom. I realized, wow, there is value here because these kids are like building this stuff, and like I see they're like playing around in the sandbox, and they're doing all these things that like separately I'm trying to learn. I'm like, oh, these kids are already ahead of the game. So I think you're very on point with that. But I really wanted to point out like something for me that as scary as I run a lot of like men's groups, and I run a lot of things that like help people digital detox. And I think that a big thing is for people just to step out of that. But it seems like with what you guys are saying, it's sucking them in, and we think that this is something decentralized, but it's just centralizing everything for like in a new way that we don't know. So like just this experience.
Well, I think you're talking about philosophical decentralization.
Correct.
No, different than technical decentralization.
Yes. So I just want to ask you guys, like, for you, what is your experience in that, like, just being able to be here and to see each other, and it's not PFPs or whatever, and you get to like, how much is that interaction mean to you guys compared to like what you see that's going? And I know you kind of touched on that, how it's a little scary, but like, if you kind of want to go into that.
I like to reach out and touch people.
It's a generational thing.
Well, this show is done on BitBoy's channel, and it's always done virtually. I do this from my home in North Carolina. You're in your home in Detroit, and so being together in person is one of the most priceless things that I can say. Period. Like, I would much rather be with everybody here on a personal level and put my phone down and not even get on social media. Because when I'm here, when I'm at these events, I don't get on social media. I'm not sitting here showing pictures of people I take. I do that maybe when I'm in the bathroom or maybe when I go home. But when I'm here, and I try to be here and in the now, in the moment, because that's the only moment that we actually have is now, the present.
Do you think the metaverse can replicate that though?
No.
No, let me. No. Can I tell a quick story? Do I have time for a quick story?
Well,
3 minute quick story.
Okay. I can be a 3-minute man. Let's go. Listen, here's. So Justin and I, we used to do a podcast called Beards and Bitcoins. Everybody loved Beards and Bitcoins, so nobody watched it. It was a really fun show, and that's how they're doing that. Justin and I met, and within like one day of meeting each other, we decided to start a podcast. It was in 2018, and we decided, like, it was struggling a little bit, and we couldn't figure out what it was, and we made the decision to start filming it in person. So we booked a studio in Austin, and I would go there once every like 2 months, and we'd film 7 or 8 episodes. It is amazing the difference in synergy between people when you're live and when you're doing it, when you're doing it on a Zoom. The nonverbal cues that you can give in person, while they look the same, when you're in person, it's like, when I'm about to stop talking and you start talking. We never talked over each other, which when we do the podcast and we do interviews virtually, we talked over each other all the time. And it's just like amazing how in person you only get that. I mean, you know, we're designed to be relational people, I think. You know, that's why we thrive on people.
Can I just say that when you guys had me on the Beards and Bitcoin, I was so flattered because I thought that I had a strong beard compared to Justin's. It's like, oh, I feel so
I got
special.
to be. I didn't have a beard, and I got to be on. That was cool.
I thought it was exclusively
Did you
bearded.
just spit shade at me, Steve?
For your beard?
Yeah, because you said I was on the show and, you know, Justin's beard.
Well, your beard
Mine was a little
Justin.
bit longer back then, but it was scraggly.
Who won the show? What's the point?
I have 38,239,742. I should have made it 21 million.
With that being said, everyone on this stage besides myself is a winner because the host can't.
You're
win.
a winner too, man.
Well, the
we
host
go.
can't win. That's all. But thank you. I appreciate you. So everybody wins. But I would like Seth to leave us with, because typically on the show, if you watch on YouTube, Blood.
No.
Seth, leave us with your 30-second parting words on any. It doesn't have to be about Metaverse. Just on anything that you want everyone here to listen to.
While you're doing push-ups.
No, do not do push-ups.
No push-ups.
I will step on your back.
It's tempting. I would let him. So, as far as like, guys, parting. Oh my gosh. Okay. So,
Make some noise for Seth.
guys, parting words. I love that was the question that we ended with, right? Sometimes we get this tunnel vision. Sometimes we get stuck in just this myopia. We're so close to it, and we can't see it, right? As was mentioned before, the fact that you're here means that you're already tuned into the metaverse, you're already tuned into cryptocurrencies, you're already tuned into blockchain in a way that is going to put you ahead of anybody you know. You're going to be the guru that helps lead your friends and family into whatever the future is. Whatever it looks like, that's going to be you. You're going to be their guide. But not if you're wrapped up in knots. We do have to dopamine detox. We do have to step back every now and then. If you don't sharpen the saw, right, it gets dull. If you don't unstring a bow, it stops shooting arrows. So every now and then, if we don't just step back and realize, like, why are we even building in this direction, then it's all for nothing. That's just what I wanted to say, guys. It's at the end of the day, it's just crypto. Yes, it's everything we're building right now, but it's also just crypto. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. All right, well, this has been the first ever live episode of Around the Blockchain. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to watch more of this kind of stuff, make sure that you check out every one of these guys' channels, and then tune into the BitBoy channel every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we do Around the Blockchain, bringing you the best influencers and thought leaders in the space. We'll see you next time.